Hello and welcome to Our Time. Malcolm. Malcolm?
Oh, sorry, I was deep in thought.
What?
Well, I'll tell you in a tick, but we've got a great program today, as always, because we're going to find out some more things about food and diet.
We are, and
Kimberly.
also Graham Corns is on the program.
We'll find out about footy.
Yes.
But I was just thinking and contemplating there how many other famous couples there have been in the entertainment industry, both in television, on film, and particularly in radio. And we have one of them with us today.
We have two, in fact.
Two couples.
Two couples. Where are the others?
Where's the other? Us.
Exactly.
We're talking about us, not you.
Oh,
not
sorry,
you.
sorry.
What are you talking about?
Welcome to. It seems odd having you there, but welcome to the program.
It's always
and
odd.
Nan,
It's
lovely.
always
Thanks a
odd.
lot, Malcolm.
It's lovely to be here.
Here with me.
Do you know, from the very first time that Ken came and joined us on the program, we haven't missed you a bit.
Thank you very little.
But we don't see you very often.
No, you don't.
No, and that's good.
He's too
No, that's not
Really,
good.
it's wonderful.
And that's why we got Nan in today, so that we could have an interesting conversation.
Well, I don't know. I mean, with us together, I don't know whether you're going to have an interesting conversation, but you'll have an unusual one. This
Fantastic. And we should just explain to everybody watching around Australia, because you didn't broadcast around Australia, did you? All over?
No.
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 That
No.
Ken
Only
and
to Sydney,
Nan-
Melbourne and Perth, but nowhere else.
Right. Not Arnhem Land?
No.
No. It's not all over Australia. So Ken and Nan had probably the most successful radio partnership in the history of mankind.
Well, definitely.
Yes. But you were not nice to this lovely woman.
What lovely woman.
This one.
Oh, her.
Stop it. Stop it. How long were you together?
Can I tell you this? The show was very successful that we did on 5DN because Ken always pretended that I weighed 22.5 stone
No pretense.
and had a terrible drinking problem.
No pretense.
And no one could ever understand why I put up with it and why I didn't get cross with him. And once, I can remember I was away and I was up looking for my brother in Sydney. He had war neurosis. Ken knew exactly where I was. But what did he do? He gets on. When I got home, I went into the butcher, and the butcher said, you know, people think you've been kidnapped. Ken was ringing everybody. Do you know who he rang? He rang just about every hotel in Adelaide. He rang Alcoholics Anonymous. He rang the Weybridge at Port Adelaide. Can you remember who else you rang?
I have no idea, Nan, but it was a lot of very... I couldn't say it here because people's opinion of you, alias Nanushka, would go down the tube. And you'd never sell any more of your lovely books.
Well, I'll tell you another one. I was sitting opposite him, waiting for the show to start.
Is that when you threw the phone book at me?
No, that was...
Another day.
We weren't even on radio when that happened. It was in the back.
I know.
Yeah, I did do that, didn't I? But anyway, this time,
Very violent.
I was sitting opposite, waiting for the show to start. And he said, well, she's not here. He said, we know where she is. She's in next door at the Welly. That's the Wellington Hotel. He said, last seen, she was crawling around the floor, begging for more money for drinks. I still sat there. He plays a record, and then he said, here it comes. And he looked down at the doorway and he said, oh, here it is, slobbering all over the place, he said. He said, never mind, Nanny. He said, I'll help you get into the chair. And he pretended to put me in the chair and then we started the show. And no one could ever understand why. But people used to ring Paul Linkson and
He was
say
the station manager
he
then.
shouldn't be saying these things. But as you were saying, I mean, there was a thing in the papers advertising the show, and what did it say? I think you may have a copy of it.
We've got some shots of some of the publicity stuff, which really shows exactly the sort of friendship partnership you had.
That's one on a cruise, but the one I was looking
I'm
for...
the one in the middle. I'm the one in the middle.
I was going to do that joke, but you're just too fast.
But
look at
that was
that.
on the back of trams. It was a great big thing.
And where did you find Valentino and Peter Allen, for that matter?
Yes, he was very nice. And, oh, that's the one. Now, say cheese, Ken, or I'll thump you, I said. He says, OK, Tubby. Now, can you imagine today,
Not today.
if he said, OK, Tubby, like that, what would happen?
Well, it'd be all offensive. That's offensive. You can't do that again. That's the trouble with the world today. We have no freedom of speech or expression. Everybody gets offended by this or that, and it's ridiculous.
But part of our Australian humour is exactly that, isn't it?
Correct. I mean, it was you have people, the old characters that were able to say things, and people didn't get offended then, but I don't know whether they're taught it at school or university or by parents or what, but it's just a lack of freedom. It's social engineering.
Having a sense of humour, really.
Yeah, it is.
We're losing our sense of humour.
Correct.
Absolutely. The
It's very
Aussie
sad.
sense of humour. Now, I have never met an Aboriginal person that I didn't like. I really like them.
I didn't like
And
you, though.
You're not allowed to call them
Frankly,
Abos. Why can we be called Aussies and we're not allowed to call Aborigines Abos? I mean, to me, it was being nice. I mean, you don't say, hello, Aussie, if you don't like the person, do you?
No.
And-
I suppose it's a circumstance, though, where you are at the
Why?
time and
But
how
it
friendly
was-
you are with them as well.
Exactly. It's a lot of things that you say are taken the wrong way. It's what you mean by your statements, but nowadays you can't
But
do
it's
that.
like the Greeks being called wogs.
Yeah.
They love it, don't they?
Yeah,
Well,
well, them do.
they-
Nick Giannopoulos,
absolutely.
wogs out of work.
No, they didn't.
Correct.
But they didn't?
Everybody in these terrible people who keep ruining Australia, they were the ones who said you mustn't call them wogs anymore. But when we called them wogs in the first place, it was because we liked them.
Terms of endearment.
It
Worldly
was.
Oriental
It was.
gentleman, yes.
Yes. There you
And
We
they've
won't
made
go
it
there, though.
No, we
into
won't.
something horrible.
I know.
But luckily, that young chap, I can't pronounce his name, who did Wogs at Work.
Nick wogs out of work, Nan.
Wogs out of work.
Thank you.
They
What was
were
his
then,
name?
Nick
they were-
Giannopoulos. Nick Giannopoulos.
No, well, I still can't say it.
Giannopoulos.
Nick, just say Nick. Nick.
Nick.
There, you said it.
Nick.
It's not that hard a
The
word.
wog out of work. But he was wonderful because he made wogs all right to say it.
I think, yes, and I think he did because he was one. So it seems to be all right, you can call yourself that, but somebody talking about you can't make that reference. That's how it's changed, I think.
No, but
Because
I
you'll
think
offend somebody and it often won't be the person you're mentioning it.
Yes.
It's somebody else away from the whole
It's true.
scene. It's so
It's
right.
like well, when we were just in the makeup room a minute ago,
Yeah.
because we actually have one.
We do.
Not that I need it, but clearly you did. But that's
You're talking
exactly
to
what
Janice,
we're
yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that sense of humour that
Yeah.
that we're sort of losing. Everything
Exactly.
has to be so squeaky clean.
Exactly.
We just can't have fun.
I mean, imagine if he'd called me Tubby now, or said all those things.
Nan, you've lost
about me.
44 stone. It was probably all right.
You were a big woman. I mean, it's no good self-denial. It's not doing you any good. You have to face your past. You were a big
Well,
girl.
I'll tell you what, I'll make you face your past.
No.
How would that go?
No,
Yes,
no, no.
And we all know
no.
about that, Nan. We can all
That's
dish the dirt. Nan, I'll just mention a bit with him.
Well, I'll tell you one thing.
Oh, God, no.
We were invited to the Paprika down in Highney Street, which was a nightclub.
One of Ken's favourite hangouts.
Well,
I'd never been there before, Malcolm.
Yeah,
sure.
She
He hadn't
lured
been
me
there
in.
Sure.
And I was there in a long dress and, you know, sort of just talking to people around the
Drinking
place. Yes, funnily enough, yes, I
and
was.
smoking, probably.
I was having it. Yes, I was smoking and drinking. I'm still smoking. And what happened was that he was late. And he came in when a woman was singing, and she was in the spotlight. And he came in the most terrible jeans with all the knees out.
Trendy.
And a terrible, dirty-looking
Dirty now.
T-shirt. And he walked straight up into where the spotlight was on, so you couldn't see the singer. And everybody shouted, "Sit down!" So he sat down for about a minute and a half.
And they all yelled, "Stand up!"
No, but you did just the same, didn't you? It was just
we were.
unbelievable. And the times that we sort of had to go to places, and you weren't interested, were you?
No.
No.
Yes, I wasn't. Neither were you. Don't tell lies.
Oh, well, one of the things we used to do, if we had to go to a film and talk, and say, welcome everybody, I don't know why we
were very
to a
interested.
preview.
Yeah, a preview.
Yes, to a
and
film
if it
preview.
was in Hindley Street, Ken would say...
Loved Hindley Street. I used to work there.
I'm getting the picture.
If he didn't want to see the show, he'd say, as soon as they sit down, let's... So out we'd go and go down to a nightclub down Hindley Street and get there back in time to stand on the stage.
And say, what a wonderful film.
And say, what a lovely film.
Yes.
Our insincerity was underwhelming.
But the reality is that this teaming up of you two doesn't really happen to the same degree with interesting conversations. There's a lot on radio at the moment. There's a lot of teams, but there's a lot of laughter about very unfunny things.
Yeah,
laughter that the audience are not aware of what they're laughing at. It's
I
behind
can't
the
listen
scenes.
to it. I'm sorry, I have to turn off.
We're old now.
Only because it's somebody laughing at nothing,
Yeah.
and it
We're
just
old.
drives me crazy.
I think one of the first things you learn when you're in radio, you were told, always include the listener.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't be laughing at private jokes. It's so rude.
I have
I
to
know.
just one thing that our producer pointed out to me. What was this about you being a pirate?
A pirate. Arr!
Yeah.
No, I
He
worked.
was. He was.
Quick story,
Oh,
Ken.
quick.
I
Radio.
worked. We were in London, very, very cold. Let's go and work somewhere. Three of us got a job in the Mediterranean on a pirate radio ship. The three of us went across, and I ended up staying there for 6 months. In a war zone, which was interesting too. Well, it was the
He was a
Israeli-Arab
pirate.
War.
Yeah.
That's
He
a
was a pirate.
conversation we must have at another
Yeah.
time, Ken.
All right.
But for now, thank you so much, Ken and Nan. It's just great to see you. You must come back and tell us about your books, because you've got the most fascinating life story with all the books and poems that you've written.
Oh, that's lovely. I'd love to come back and do that.
We might even let him interview you.
Yes, we might.
Oh,
Or you could have or you could have somebody really good. But we'll be back in a tick with Ken and Graham Corns talking about football.
Are we going to talk football? Okay, that'll be interesting. Well, on Our Time, we're going to talk sport, namely AFL football, and we're going to talk entertainment. Got a bloke here by the name of Graham Corns. If you're a VFL or an Aussie Rules fan, no doubt you've heard of him. If not him, if you're too young, certainly his boys, Chad and Kane, a couple of champions.
Yeah, that's what you're known for these days. That's
It's a bit sad, isn't it?
Yeah. So they say you're Kane's dad. Yeah, that's right. Or
And
Chad's
you
dad.
say, don't you know how good I was? I was a legend.
No, I haven't had to say that. I don't
You've
think,
always been modest,
I
Graham.
don't think I would have said that.
No, I don't either,
Okay.
knowing you. He's a
It's
modest-
interesting though the generations change, like because somebody will come up who might have followed you when you and they might have their grandson or their they'll try and explain who you were or what you did, and the little kid will just look blankly at just who is this old person? So,
This is old. You don't look old. Then again, I probably don't look old to you.
No, you don't.
We also worked on radio back in the 90s.
no, it was late 80s, late 80s, early, just at the start of the Crows, just before and just after the formation of the Crows. And I've got to say, Ken was a fantastic guy to work with. He was so talented. He won't want to hear this, and he'll deny it, and he'll make all sorts of false, modest
Right.
statements. But he was a professional radio man, and we did a breakfast show together, and he was a lot of fun to work with.
Well, we had fun,
We
and
did.
that's
We did have fun.
that's what entertainment radio, television should be about.
They wouldn't let me play the songs I wanted to play, though.
No, they're very strict with their format, Graham. Graham was, no, I won't say a troublemaker, but you walked or marched to your own beat, didn't you? Your own drum. That's what I'm trying to mumble out.
Look, I think authority is there to be tested.
Oh, God, did you ever? We should talk about your army days. Did you spend any time in jail? No, I'm sorry.
I did.
I wanted to talk about the army because you were an extremely brilliant footballer, and I'm not trying to make you feel embarrassed, but you were a wonderful SANFL footballer, and then you were drafted. Did that set your career back? Do you?
I look back and wonder whether it did, but I don't think so. The first, I had to go to Puckapunyal, then went to a place called Skyville near Windsor in New South Wales in the foothills of the Blue Mountains. So that was over summer. I went in October. Footy season started next March, so I was able to play in 1969, even though I was based in Sydney. Yeah. I was able to fly back about 14 times. I played 14 games in '69. Missed most of the season in 1970 when I was in Vietnam, and then got back for the last minor round game, and then was able to play the final series. So the next year I picked up. I was lucky. I was lucky I had football to come home to, and football supported me the whole time. So I always had that contact. I do wonder what it would have been like had I had those 2 years though, 69 and 70, but it worked out okay.
So many people that have been to Vietnam or been to war, people I know, have been quite severely affected by it. You seem to have escaped pretty unscathed. There's
definitely demons there, but I think I was really lucky. I got back from Vietnam. We left on a Thursday, flew out of Saigon, got to Sydney late that night. Next morning I was back in Adelaide. It was a Friday. Wayne Phillips picked me up, my teammate from Glenelg, and I played for Glenelg reserves on the Saturday. So the moment I stepped off that plane, I had the infrastructure and the discipline of a footy club to support me. So I always thank that for keeping me grounded a lot. Imagine getting off the plane, going back to the farm.
In a war zone, for God's
going
sake,
back to the farm at Lamoureux or the suburbs at Kilburn, and no support network and no discipline to have to employ. So, but there's definitely moments, and there has been moments over the years. I've had counselling on it, that sort of thing. Most veterans have issues, and I had, some issues.
You were infantry.
Yeah.
And I've never, all the years I've known you, I've never asked you, did you see much action?
Just enough. I can't say that we're in any we're no conflicts like Lontan or the fire support battles of Coral or Balmoral, but just enough action to, show you what it was like really, and see what your reactions were going to be. But it was a horrible time when you think about it, and you have laughs when you get together with your old army buddies and talk about the good times, but there's always an underlying sadness, the futility of it all, as much as anything.
Futility, total.
And the guys who died, 500 odd Australian soldiers were killed up there. And you think, what for? And some guys went over as reinforcements, joined a unit and were killed that day. It's just ridiculous.
And they send kids away.
Yeah, well, you are.
That's the worst thing, isn't it?
Because you're not, you don't think
set in your ways. You can be brainwashed, basically.
Yeah, and you don't think of the consequences when you're
fearless, aren't you?
When you get a bit older, you realise that there's a consequence to this stupid thing you're doing. But when you're young, there's a famous saying. It was actually in a movie, that movie Troy. Young men fight, old men talk. Old men talk, young men fight. So basically, politicians send you to war. Guys do it out of a sense of comradeship and mateship and esprit de corps. And in the end, it's all futile.
It's totally futile. Let's talk of happier things. You must be very proud of your boy. Well, your whole family, but talking football, Chad and Kane.
Look, I know people mean well when they say that. You must be proud of them, but
well, I did mean well, Graham.
I know, but it implies that you're proud of them because they play footy.
No, but they're good young men. I know them. They're delightful young men.
They've been good boys, and they had good footy career, even though it was with Port Adelaide.
It's sad.
It was sad, but they had great careers. Now Chad's coaching them.
Yeah.
He comes home with these black and white tops on and hangs them on our line. And
do you have nightmares?
No,
do you feel like throwing him out of your house?
I get a bit annoyed with it.
And Graham would really be getting annoyed too.
No, he's too big for me these days. He's massive. He's a massive man.
Yeah.
But then the three girls, they're coming along nicely. It's intriguing. Chad's 36. My youngest daughter is 6. It's an interesting.
You've been very fertile over a fair period of time, Graham.
I think I've retired now. There's no doubt about it.
Well, it is about time. As we were saying earlier, we worked on radio. That was your first foray into radio when we got together. That must have been a shock for you.
It was. I was in the car trade, and I did Graham Gooding was on holidays. They asked a few people to come in, and then they rang me back a few weeks later, said, would I like to do it full time? But I was running the dealership, Corns Toyota, at the time, and couldn't see how I could. But the managing director of the group always said, look, you're going to be better at coaching and media than you are as a car dealer. So he let me do it for a year, see how it went, and it was great. I mean, I'm not saying it because Ken is a fantastic radio personality and a talented interviewer, and it was great to work with. So it was a really good time.
I'm getting a big head here.
Yeah, no, you deserve to have a big head. He should still be on radio.
Well, I think I'm a little bit old for that, mate.
No,
Radio's changed so much.
Jeremy's still on radio.
Who's Jeremy?
Jeremy Corder.
Oh, of course, Jeremy. No, I'm being totally facetious, and I shouldn't have said that. He's a fine lad. Yeah. Graham, as always, it's good to catch up. We don't catch up often enough, but
no, we don't.
You've got a family to run and people to look after and all this sort of thing. What are you doing with yourself? I mean, I know you had a bit of a health scare with your heart. Are you able to play any contact sport?
No, it was nothing. I got a condition called atrial fibrillation, which is an erratic heartbeat. So.
Well, mate, you're still with us.
Yeah, I'm still with you. And I'm trying to play golf badly.
Well, join the club. We'll have a game one day. Always nice to catch up with people we've known for a long time and probably should see more often. Talking with AFL, VFL, SANFL legend Graham Corns.
Hello everyone, I have Kimberly Douglas, our nutritionist, here with me today, and we're going to talk about copper toxicity. Now, I didn't think a lot about copper even getting into our systems. How would we ingest copper?
Okay, well, there's copper the mineral and copper the metal.
Right.
And unfortunately, if copper builds up in your system, it can cause massive problems. So where do you get copper? First of all, copper piping. Most of us live in houses that have copper piping.
Especially for the hot water.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So copper piping, chocolate.
No.
Yes, I'm afraid so. And coffee. These contain, now there are other things that have copper in them, but they're your major ones.
Yes.
Now, the skin can absorb, obviously. So just even being in a shower and being in a house with copper piping, you'll see the green stains in the bottoms of showers or in loos, and that's because there's high copper leaching out. So if you're drinking that daily and having 8 glasses of water and it's not going through a filter, you're also having showers, you may be having 2-3 coffees a day, you're also having a little row of chocolate here and there or more. A lot of people eat a lot more chocolate than that. What happens is the copper cannot be excreted. Now, when copper enters our bloodstream, our body doesn't like it there, and it's eliminated through vitamin C and zinc. So if you have good stores of zinc and vitamin C, it binds with copper and it eliminates it out through your bowel action.
But depletes you of the copper,
Correct.
the vitamin C and zinc.
So if you have people who are zinc deficient, and we have a lot of people in Australia who are chronically zinc deficient, you get zinc from red meat and oysters, but a lot of diseases, illnesses and poor eating strip zinc. And just even also being low in vitamin C can allow copper to build up. Now, if copper builds up, you're looking at the major symptoms are anxiety and panic, and particularly also joint aches. If anyone has things where they've been told they have fibromyalgia, so that's aching and weakness in your muscles, very similar to chronic fatigue, but it's all over. So your shoulders ache and then that's right. So
and that can be copper in the system.
It can be copper. Now, the interesting thing is that if you're going to be tested for it, you need to have a blood test for it. And what we're looking for is what is mobilised in the body. Now, copper being a heavy metal and a mineral, it's fat soluble. So if you can flag it in the blood, it reflects that that's just a small amount in the blood. There's a lot more stored in your fat. Now, you think about where our fat stores in our body. Our brain, in women, breast tissue, in men, prostate, and things like
tummies.
Yeah, and have you heard of things like fatty liver? And someone's told they've got a fatty liver. So you're storing chemicals in your fat. And so I have a lot of people who we do the serum blood test and we find copper levels, and we are able to simply get rid of it with appropriate dosages, properly prescribed of zinc, vitamin C, and a few other things, and extraordinary results.
Thank you, Kimberly. Fascinating. Copper toxicity. It can be in your system, and it's worth thinking about. Maybe a good reason to lose some weight. Back now to Janice and Malcolm.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program because it's been jam-packed.
Well, yes, it's so
Jam-packed or jam-packed?
Boom. It was great having Nan, and terrific you talking too.
Yeah, it was lovely to have Nan and Graham
and also finding out a little bit more good stuff about diet.
Health is
and
always.
health. Thanks for joining us, and we hope that we can see you very soon. So keep yourself nice until next time.
On Our Time. Bye for now.
Bye.